welcome. You're watching India Today, India Tomorrow, the program that interviews families across generations, giving you a chance to peek into their lives, find out about their stories, and share in their magic. And today I have for you a unique father and son combination. Poet, politician, lawyer Kapil Sibal, and his son Akhil, who's an outstanding lawyer in his own right. Welcome to the program, Kapil and Akhil. Let's start with you, Kapil. 4 years ago, you told Caravan magazine, and I'm quoting, "I hated school, loathed homework,
That's right.
and was the black sheep in my family."
Without any
My
doubt.
mother often said, "What do I do with this kid?" I have to say, this almost makes you seem like a normal human being.
Yeah, it's exactly that. You know, my brothers are very bright in academics. I was okay, not on top of the class ever.
Is he being modest or is he being truthful?
That's a fact. It's a fact. And in college, it was a little different. But in school, I was out in the field every day, playing cricket. You know, I was the hockey captain, football captain, cricket captain of my school, best athlete of my school.
So all your skills were athletic?
All. Not at all. Not
The great lawyer
I
wasn't
hated
born?
maths, I hated working. And my mother used to say, what are we going to do with this kid?
You know, you had 3 elder brothers and an elder sister, so I take it you were the baby of the
Yes,
family.
exactly.
Were you a spoiled brat?
No, they used to bully me. They used to bully me all the time.
And you let them get away with it?
I let them get away with it. I was too small to retaliate, quite frankly.
Now, Akhil, you had an amazingly diverse education. You began with a Hindi medium school in Delhi, 3 years in Egypt, high school in Paris, college in America, and finally a law degree at Cambridge. Now, that's either a great education or a very confusing one. Which was it?
Bit of both. I mean, of course, you get a lot of exposure, so that part of it is very enriching. It can be a little unsettling because you're shifting every 3 years, going to a new place, so there's an adjustment period. And obviously, in your younger years, you're less able to adapt. So it takes a little getting used to. But overall, in hindsight, definitely a very positive experience, and it really stretches your mind, expands your horizons, and enriches you as an individual.
Now, you made your first mark, not as a lawyer, but as an actor when you were at St. Stephen's College. You acted in Shakespeare plays like Richard III and Julius Caesar. They gave you a nickname at the time. Do you remember it?
Capilius Sibelius, something like that.
Were you approving of it, or did you say, Christ, what's this?
I didn't bother, I didn't.
And then there was another nickname when you appeared in Rhinoceros.
That's right. They used to call me Rhinoceros, yes. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I spent most of my time really doing many of the other extracurricular stuff, acting. And then, of course, later I went on to direct plays in the university. I directed plays in St. Stephen's, in Delhi School of Economics, Miranda House, Lady Irwin.
So the theatrical element in you came out first.
Yeah. So I always loved theatre.
There's a lovely story from that time. I want you to confirm it for me. I gather Brinda Karat was the belle of the university, and you became the envy of college because you got to clinch her on stage.
Absolutely. She used to sit on my lap because she was a mermaid. And it's, I had to sort of be very restrained. To tell you that. But she's a lovely, lovely lady. Yeah.
And she was the belle of the university at the time?
She was the belle of the university, absolutely.
And you were the envy of the college because you got to sit on her lap?
No, she
sat on your lap?
She sat on
Oh, even better still.
That's why I said I had to exercise a lot of restraint.
Now, unlike your dad, Akhil, who was an actor and enjoyed the fun side of college, you did a double major in philosophy, and most of us look on philosophy as a forbidding subject. I take it you took to it like a fish on water.
Yeah. Well, I was out to do anything other than law. So I was exploring every avenue, and philosophy just interested me. I took a few courses, and that led to more, and then I decided to major in it along with political science. And to be honest, political science I just threw in there so that it would sound more acceptable to my parents. Because philosophy, not something people see as something that would...
No, I was not happy about it.
You wanted your son to follow in your footsteps?
No, not that. I never forced them to do anything. It was their choice. But I didn't understand where he was going with philosophy.
No obvious career.
Science.
No obvious career path.
Philosophy and I just didn't know where he was going.
So what would you prefer him to do?
No, it was up to him. But I didn't think that this choice was a very wise one.
But
it turned out okay.
But ironically, it's because of philosophy that I decided to do law. Because as I told you, being surrounded by law as you grow up, it's possible that you are a little averse to following the same path that has been followed by your father and grandfather, and you try to strike out on an original note. That was what I was thinking when I went to college, did philosophy, loved it, and at the end of that I thought to myself, well, it's either academia, I know what I like, which is philosophy, or law, which is actually very similar in terms of the methodical, structured thinking, the analytical skills. And so actually, as a result, law became an active choice for me rather than a passive one.
This is fascinating. You took philosophy because you actually didn't want to take up law, and then philosophy in a real sense opened you up to the possibility of being a lawyer.
So in hindsight, he should be happy that I didn't.
No. See, he's the kind of guy, if he were to do law and he didn't like it, he would have dropped it.
And so the best way was to not let him do law, and he would find his own calling.
Exactly. That's how it
Now,
is.
he has a lovely story to tell. He says one of his early memories of you is when you would visit the family in France and in Egypt, and it was very hard to get you out of bed. All you would want to do is sleep, 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 and they'd have to bully you to get up.
Absolutely.
So is the real Kapil Sibal a bit of a lazy soul?
Absolutely. Even now. Even now when I come back from court, and if I can sort of steal half an hour, I sort of, I sleep for a while. I can sleep at any time.
So am I right in saying Kapil Sibal's favorite place is bed?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can I embarrass you and ask on your own?
On my own. When I'm not at my desk, I'm in my bed.
How amazing. This is really quite an admission. When I'm not at my desk, I'm in my bed.
I love to sleep. I love to rest.
So having daddy for a holiday wasn't much fun, because instead of taking you around and showing you places and taking you to restaurants, he was asleep in bed.
I used to feel bad. I felt he must be so tired. No human could sleep that much.
But you see, I'm not an early riser. And they used to get up early and get ready. Why are you late? We have to go this place, that place. And so I love the evenings. I and he used to go and to the Zamalek club. Yes, I used to play squash there. And we used to take our evening trips in Egypt to Zamalek.
Not being an early riser and preferring the late nights means that you have all the wrong discipline to be a lawyer and a politician, because those guys get up very early and go to sleep pretty early too.
I don't know which politician gets up early. I doubt it.
And do politicians spend their best time in bed?
At that, of course, you have to ask them. My activity was so low.
Now, you said that your dad was younger than his years and you're older than yours. So does that mean...
Still is.
He's a child at heart and you're a bit of an old fogey?
I think that's correct.
Huh?
I think that's correct.
But when you say he still is, what do you mean?
He's always been very youthful. That youthful exuberance, that positivity, that zest for life, it keeps you young. I, on the other hand, a slightly negative personality. So for me, positivity is a little bit of an effort.
So are you in a sense polar opposites? Because you also have said, and I've read this, that your father is positive in his outlook to life. You're a bit negative. So the two of you always look at the same thing and come to different conclusions.
Well, with his positivity is infectious. So it keeps me positive. But yes, approaches can be a little bit different. I wouldn't say polar opposites, but
a healthy difference of opinion.
That's right. That's right.
Well, he's very intense. He's very committed to what he does. I'm not like that. I enjoy what I do.
You see the humor and the joke in everything.
He doesn't necessarily enjoy what he does, but he's committed to what he does. This is my understanding.
It sounds as if you're pushing yourself to do things you don't want to do.
I think so. I think so. I mean, for example, if he has a matter, he's obsessed with it. But at some level, I say, oh, forget it.
You can distance yourself from work.
Yeah, I do that.
He's immersed in it.
I think so.
I get more emotionally engaged and involved.
That's right.
And so your work becomes your life.
Yes, and the matter is mine.
And
I'm the lawyer. I'm the client. It's personal.
You know what happens is he calls, when he does a matter sometimes, he calls me in the evening and he he tells me what happened. And he's, sometimes very disturbed. And if it's MF Hussain he was representing, he would tell me, this is what happened. That one, he's excited, and he wants to fight for the right causes. Human rights, stuff like that.
So
he's very liberal in his approach.
He gets completely involved in what he's doing, and it takes him over. Whereas you can switch off and get into bed.
I can switch off. I can do other things.
Now, it's interesting. You once said to the Telegraph that when Akhil was young, you couldn't boss him. He knew his own mind. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. That must have been a bit of a problem because lawyers and politicians like bossing people.
No. I never bossed anybody. In fact, even now, cannot boss him.
You don't boss him?
No.
Shall I ask him whether that's true?
Never.
Does he boss you?
No, not at all.
Does he try?
He's not interfering. He's never dictated how I should or should not do things. He's let me do what I wanted to do. And, the difference has been, whereas, for instance, my mother was involved with the nitty-gritty. And since I was living with her and he was in India and we were traveling since she was in the Foreign Service. So he wasn't involved in that sense with the nitty-gritty. He knew that, daily affairs were well looked after by my mother, and his concern was what's happening in your mind, what are you thinking about.
He was the big picture man.
He was the big picture man.
You once said of him that he's never interfered in my life, but the flip side is he didn't get involved either. To me, that sounds like the ideal dad. Let the boy be himself, and I'll simply push and nudge when it's needed.
Yeah, in many ways, yes. At times, I certainly wanted more time with him, only because there was a physical distance, and in those days, people weren't quite as jet set as they are now.
There weren't internets, and there weren't phones, and there wasn't Skype.
Exactly.
So there were times when actually you missed not having daddy
on a daily basis, yes, I did. But overall, yes, he was never controlling. And he believed that the general good sense that, my mother had drilled into me would hold me in good stead, and he sort of hoped for the best.
People are going to find it hard to believe that Kapil Sibal didn't bully and push his sons. Most people think politicians do that all the time.
You must understand my views of education are based on this. Don't interfere with the kid. Let him grow up. Let him find his own genius.
And you practice that with your own children to start with?
My own children.
Let's talk about your careers. Kapil, you began yours teaching history at Hindu College. How did you end up a lawyer?
I don't know. I really don't know. Because in 1969, I think, I did my MA, and I was walking after giving the university exam, and Bipin Chandra, the late Bipin Chandra, who was my professor in the university, was walking behind. And he asked me, "What are you going to do, Kapil?" I said, "Sir, I'll join the faculty." He said, "Well, why don't you teach?" I said, "Sir, who will give me a job?" I was a fairly good student when, in university.
By then.
So he said, "Why? There's a place in Hindu College, why don't you apply?" I said, "Sir, but I want to do law. When I want to do it in the morning." He said, "If you get the job, I'm sure they'll adjust it." So I applied. I got the job. They adjusted my classes. Right? And at the same time, I sat for the IAS. So in 1972, I had 3 career options.
IAS, academics, and law.
And law.
Why did you choose law?
IAS, I was very upset, actually, because I directed a play called Che Guevara. And the government of India at that time thought that I was a Naxalite. And didn't send me the offer for some time. Till, of course, they ultimately sent it.
And that put you off?
Put me off, that's number one.
You were hurt?
I was upset. Because, I was in theatre. And as far as the teaching job is concerned, I love teaching, but, my brothers were in the bureaucracy. That's the other reason why I didn't join. My 3 brothers were in
You're making it seem as if law was an option by default.
Yeah, no, but I wanted to do something different. I just did. And my father was very keen that one of us did the law.
So eventually you decided, I'll do what daddy says.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it just a coincidence that you become a lawyer? And I know how it happened, because not wanting to be a lawyer made you study philosophy, and philosophy pushed you back into law. But looking back, is it a coincidence you're a lawyer, or do you think it would be inevitable that Kapil's son and your grandfather's grandson, because your grandfather was an eminent lawyer, would be a lawyer too?
I think given the way that I think, my makeup, it was inevitable. If I had been someone else, then perhaps I would have gone in a different direction. But looking back and reflecting over how my mind and my thoughts developed and how my personality developed, I think eventually I was meant for law.
Do you think it's actually in the genes? Because you're the 3rd generation.
It's possible. It's possible.
Now, there's an interesting story. You've embarked as a lawyer on your own. But there was a time right at the beginning when you asked your father for help to try and draft a petition, and he said no. And with hindsight, it was probably the best thing because it forced you to work it out on your own. But at the time, when Daddy said no, were you taken aback?
Yeah, well, I adopted a slightly unusual course, which is that when I started out, I didn't join anybody. Typically, even if you come from a legal lineage, you typically join another lawyer, work in somebody else's chamber. And I started out on my own. So I really did need a lot of help, and there was not much guidance close at hand.
And he wasn't willing to help.
And he, being 35 years into the profession, it's like, you know, he knew how to drive, but he was not clear about how to teach others how to drive. So when I went to him and said, look, can you help me draft a petition? He said, well, if you bring me a drafted petition, I can tell you what's wrong, but I don't know how to go about it. So I had to fumble my way through it and figure it out, which was good.
You're a bit of a hard taskmaster,
No,
you?
but you see, you must learn how to swim. See, in life, you
But
must
do
be
you have
thrown
to
into
throw
the
him
water.
into the deep end?
I did it myself. I mean, my father didn't help me. I came to Delhi, I was a briefless lawyer. A briefless lawyer. I used to go from court to court looking at judges, understanding their psychology, finding out what they were, you know, listening to what they were saying, listening to what others were arguing. So if I got a case, I know how to do it. But I was a briefless guy.
Self-taught.
And my father, yes, self-taught. And so the best way to learn how to swim is to be thrown into the water and to struggle.
There seems to me as if there's a really tough side to the Sibal family from your grandfather onwards.
Well, I remember early years, and still, when I would go to my father with, and still do, with self-doubt or something that may have happened in court that I'm not happy with, or a misstep by me, hoping that he would recall some missteps that he might have made in his younger years.
He can't think of any mistakes he's ever made.
At all. No recollection
Well,
at all.
I never look at the negative things in life at all. ever.
Or you present yourself as a perfect man.
you know, one is bound to make mistakes.
But you forget them.
Mistakes is part of life.
I'll tell you what it is. I've gotten to the bottom of it. I think, if and when he does make a mistake, he forgets about it as quickly as he does, whereas the rest of us pour over it, think about it, analyze it, reflect over it, and agonize over what we've done wrong. He recognizes this has happened and moves on.
So that's probably very wise, because you know, you've been the lawyer for some of the most eminent politicians in the country, and then also for some of the most eminent actors from Bollywood. I mean, I gather you've represented Narasimha Rao,
Right.
Lalu Yadav,
Yeah.
You've represented Mayawati and Jaya Lalitha, and we all know about how you've represented Salman Khan and Sanjay Dutt. Is it daunting and challenging when you're representing celebrities, or is it more difficult when an ordinary man is in your hands?
Karan, let me tell you something from the heart. I love representing people who nobody represents.
So ordinary people rather
Yes,
than celebrities?
I love, that's the best.
So then why
Yesterday,
do-
for example, the matter that I did, you know, there's no question of charging anything.
This is an ordinary Kashmiri that you were
It's
doing.
only Kashmiri that I was doing. I love doing that. Tista, for example. And I put my heart into those matters. Because you were fighting for a cause. You're not fighting for winning one case. You're fighting for winning a cause. And that's far more challenging and far more rewarding.
So when
And
you
if you
have
don't
to-
take money, it's even more rewarding.
So when you have to represent former prime ministers or former chief ministers or big Bollywood stars, you do it, but it's not your first choice.
It's not my first choice. It's not my first choice.
People say that the greatest triumph that actually established Kapil Sibal as a lawyer was the Ramaswamy case,
Right.
when you had to save a Supreme Court judge from impeachment. Would you accept that that was your biggest triumph?
Without any doubt, without any. It was an opportunity that I don't think any lawyer has got in the history of the world.
And the great moment was when you had to address Parliament.
That's right.
Not many lawyers anywhere in the world have done that.
Yes.
Were you
Yes.
nervous?
I was nervous. I was nervous. Why? Because I'll tell that story when I write my autobiography. I was threatened.
Physically?
No. I was threatened in the sense that if your client doesn't do this, this will happen. And they, before the hearing, they would come and say, we'll vote against you, we'll finish you, something like that.
And I presume you were also nervous because you knew that if you fumbled,
Yeah.
the judge will probably end up impeached.
Absolutely.
His future depended upon your performance.
And remember, I did it all free. I spent my own money. I didn't take any fees from it.
Which means failure would have been doubly expensive.
Yes,
you'd have been
absolutely.
broke and you'd have been a
Because
loser.
how could you ask the judge?
Your first case, Akhil, was against the Bar Council of India. That's a very unusual client to have to come up against. It's a daunting initiation into the profession, isn't it?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I mean, I'd just come back. I was raring to go, and I was told that for the first time ever, there's a policy that you have to give an exam, even if your degree is recognized. You know, I was still finding my feet. I was a bit intimidated by the prospect of being back after 13 years of living abroad and starting in the profession. So I approached it with an open mind, with humility. But when I went deeper into it, I was told I had to sit for 6 papers in 2 months without a syllabus, with no courses and no guidance. So I said, well, how do you expect me to pass this exam? And I was told that I should just go to the market, get the leading textbook on any given subject and memorize it. I then decided to file a case.
And won.
And won.
The other interesting thing about lawyers is you get to know your clients in a way that even the clients don't realize they're revealing themselves. One of your big clients was M.F. Hussain, and you discovered that he wasn't very good at giving tips, as a result of which you'd sometimes be kept waiting for 30 minutes and 45 minutes before you got a table at a restaurant.
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely. And I was flabbergasted. I couldn't understand how a gentleman with the kind of recognition that he had, and with people milling about him and going up to him, was kept waiting for as long as he was kept waiting.
Until you discovered he doesn't tip.
Yes, absolutely.
And this is the revenge of the waiter.
That's right. That's right.
Now, Kapil, lawyers are great with speeches, and they're terrific at marshalling facts and arguments. Does that mean lawyers are showmen? Is there a Perry Mason in everyone?
Yeah, perhaps. You've got to master your facts. You have to actually outdo the other guy. You have to convince the judge who is not ready to be convinced. So you have to marshal all your faculties.
Outdoing the other guy is the competitiveness that's inherent in law.
It's inherent.
It's an adversarial system.
And also,
if you have theatrical ability like he does, it helps.
So he is performing when he's in court.
That's not true.
Does the actor, the Coppelius Sibelius, come out?
Remember, when you are acting, you are mouthing somebody else's words. When you are in a court of law, you are actually speaking from your heart if you want to really represent your client.
Assuming you have a heart.
No, you do. You can't otherwise win cases if you don't have a heart.
Let me put it like this. When you're in front of a judge, what is more important? The strength of the argument or the panache with which you present it? The debonair confidence with which you try and win over? Which is more important?
Well, I think that, generally the finest legal minds are not necessarily the best arguing counsel, because we're in the business of persuasion, and our system being the way that it is, you have to be very tactical. You have to understand the personality and nature of the judge and speak to that. If you have a sense that the judge has a big ego, and you do have to be careful about that and
pander to it.
So not just a good performer, a good lawyer has to be intuitive of the personality that he's performing in front of, and modulate himself.
What you said is most important. Intuition is the heart of good lawyering.
Lawyers have to have a sixth sense.
Yes, he must, because why? The lawyer must know the judge. Different judges have different sort of idiosyncrasies. You have to cater to them.
Now, this is very interesting. At the very height of your success as a lawyer, you suddenly switched and became a politician instead. Was that ambition to be a politician always lurking inside you?
Yeah, it was. Actually, I remember as a kid, maybe 9, 10, 11, 12, I went to Parliament, like kids go now, and I was up there watching a Kashmiri speak in Lok Sabha. And I said to myself as a kid that I want to be there one day.
Ambition was born at the age of 8.
It was my desire to be at the center of things.
And remember, he was president of the Supreme Court Bar Association 3 times, which is no small feat in and of itself. So even before he took the plunge.
I can tell you it's more difficult to be a president of the Supreme Court Bar than to win a Lok Sabha election.
As the son of a politician, are you attracted to politics at all, or do you share the general disdain Indians have of politicians and tutu meme politics?
I am attracted to it, but I'm not sure that I would want to go into it, precisely because of the way our system is structured, and it doesn't necessarily invite people of talent, and it's not based on merit.
So these are daddy's footsteps. You're definitely not going to walk
No,
in.
no, no. I think if he gets into politics, and he should, because he has a talent for it.
Are you pushing him?
No, I'm not pushing
Are
him.
you encouraging him?
No, no, no.
Not even
I think
persuading
he has
him?
a talent for it, because I watch him. Because the only time my kids were with me was during election time. When I was in government, they never, hardly ever visited me. They didn't know where my offices
So
were.
did you go campaigning with
Yes,
daddy?
that's
Absolutely,
what.
absolutely.
Yes, he campaigned for me, and I know he has the talent to be a very, very successful politician. But of course, it's his choice.
As of now, I'm focused on my legal career, so I have no immediate thoughts.
The
But let's
lovely
see.
word is now. As of now, you've left a little window open for the future.
Never say never, never say never.
Absolutely. You know, Kapil, they say there's a lot of similarity between lawyers and politicians. They defend the indefensible, they're very good at deceiving people, and they usually end up stinking rich. Am I being unfair?
No, no, not. No, no. You know, sometimes you have to defend the indefensible because you're paid to do so.
Absolutely. Even better still, you make money
But
out of it.
sometimes you also defend the defensible,
And
even
then,
though you're not paid to do so.
and then you're a loser.
No, you're a winner. That's where the pleasure
But
is.
ultimately, I think for those who are passionate about the legal profession, the real sort of reward is, as my father was saying, the individual impoverished client who has nobody to defend him or her, and the gratitude and you know, the lifelong sort of gratitude that you get, whether you win the case or not.
That's when
that's the
lawyers
real-
feel like Robin Hood.
Yes, they do.
During my election time, I used to go to places, and people used to come, why you come here? Because, you know, you defended us, you charged no money. And these were, you know, people who were in services, and I never charged even as a High Court lawyer. And they said, you don't have to come.
These are the touching sides of a lawyer's life that one never gets to know. But let's come to the fun side of you. Kapil, the world knows you as a lawyer, as a politician, but you're also a poet and a lyricist. And I gather Khushwant Singh played a critical role in convincing Roli Books to publish your first collection.
That's correct. I went to Khushwant, and so a friend of ours took me to Khushwant. And, you know, I said, I've written this stuff. He said, let's hear it. And so I started reciting. And at the end of it, he said, you must publish. And I said, well, who's going to publish? He said, we'll have Penguin publish. And then Roli Books Kapoor was sitting there. And he said, no, Penguin Books will take too long. These guys are too, you know, it takes time for them to publish. It'll only be published 2 years from now. So why don't you ask Roli to publish? And he happened to be there. So Roli said, okay, I'll look at it. He went back and he said, let's do it.
So a magnificent accident, in short,
Yeah,
that you
magnificent.
got published and
Yeah.
published quickly.
Yes, absolutely.
But the other amazing thing about your poetry is that it's actually composed on a phone,
Yes,
and most of it is written during long plane journeys.
absolutely. Well, I have had no time as a lawyer to write poetry. You know, when you're so involved in the law or as a politician. So when I used to take these long trips to the US, you know, or other, you know, trips to Bombay or Mumbai or something like that, then I used to write it on my, you know, phone.
But you know, most of us get on a plane and either fall asleep or sometimes get drunk.
Right.
You bring out your phone and your muse takes over.
Yeah. But what to do? We have nothing to do for 2.5 hours or for 12 hours.
So boredom is your inspiration.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Do you really mean it?
I mean it.
You were just filling in time.
Yeah, I was filling in time, and then I suddenly realized I was enjoying it.
So it became a habit and then a hobby.
Then I loved it. And of course, I write in meter.
Absolutely. In fact, Akhil, one of the most striking things about your father's poetry is the clear and obvious rhyme and the bouncy meter. One of my favorites is a poem called Political Opportunism, and here it goes. A somersault is a turnabout with acrobatic skills. For those who watch admiringly, it does not cease to thrill. And every time I read it, I say to myself, that reminds me of Lewis Carroll's Old Father William.
Absolutely. But I remember, I mean, he always had a talent for poetry, and much before he was published, he would pen something clever down all the time about, you know, generally about world leaders, something comical, something amusing. So I think it was something which was in the making. And
So as a child, as you were growing up, you and your brother were witness to the poet lurking inside, the lawyer lurking inside the politician.
and he used to recite to us as well, and we used to love it because he had wonderful
So
theatrical
Daddy is a
way.
bit like those Russian dolls. Each time you take one apart, a new one comes, right? You take the actor,
Matryoshka.
then comes
I
the
used
lawyer, then comes the politician, and eventually
Many
the
layers,
poet.
many
I
layers.
used to read to them a lot of things in bed. That's the other. Sometimes I used to spend in bed reading to them.
But the interesting thing is that you've written on a range of potentially unpoetic subjects. You've written on Pota,
Yes.
on the 1-2-3 agreement,
Yes.
political sycophancy,
Right.
and you've even written on Atal Bihari Vajpayee.
Absolutely.
Is this the politician in you finding poetic?
Yeah, absolutely. You know,
Experience.
these are very significant events, so to say, in a nation's life, and nobody has put them to rhyme. So I decided to do it. It was a great one.
Akhil, it's not just your father who's a writer. Your mother and your mother-in-law were accomplished writers as well. Would you ever consider writing yourself?
I wish I had the talent. I haven't found it yet. I haven't found it yet.
I mean, you're waiting for a plane ride when your muse will speak to you.
Yes. Well, the best that I've done so far is I have a 5-year-old daughter, and I've now for about 2 years been penning down, short verses on conversations with her, which are popular amongst my friends. But
It's very popular.
That's about all. That's about
So there
all.
is a poet lurking inside
I
him.
think so. I think so.
He just simply needs the encouragement to make
He
it
needs
public.
to have that self-confidence, that he needs to believe in the fact that he can actually do it. I never believed in it till 5-7 years ago.
Until Khushwant introduced
Yeah,
you to
exactly.
Pramod Kapoor.
Exactly. He should have somebody like Khushwant.
Isn't this a moment when, in fact, Daddy could play a positive role?
Hopefully in time to come.
Now, recently, Kapil, you've moved from writing poetry on your phone to doing lyrics for Hindi movies, and you've even done songs for A.R. Rahman's Ronak. Is it more fun to write for a film song than it is to do conventional poetry?
Yeah, I think so.
Why? What's the difference?
First of all, what you can express in Hindi or Hindustani, I would put it, because I don't know classical Hindi. In Hindustani, is far more effective than in the English language.
Why?
Somehow, the words are far more evocative. The thoughts are.
You mean Hindustani lends itself to
Yeah.
more evocative poetry than English?
I think so.
Even though English has Shakespeare and the sonnets
I
and
think so.
Wordsworth, Keats,
I
Byron.
think so. I think so. I may be wrong.
So Kapil's muse is a Hindi muse.
Yes, Hindustani music.
Hindustani muse. Now, when you write for a film song, do the lyrics come first, and is the melody composed to the lyrics, or are you given a melody and asked to write lyrics
It's
to the
happened
tune?
both ways. In the latest movie Shorgul, in which I've written all the lyrics, the theme song Tere Bina, the meter was given to me.
The meter. And therefore,
I had to.
that discipline was
yeah.
one you had to accept.
Yes, and
How-
it's happened before also. But there are many songs of mine which are not in the public domain, for which have been sung by very many, prominent singers like Hariharan and Arijit and many others, where of course I've written the song and they put it to music.
So why aren't
I've
these in
written
the public
lyrics.
domain?
Well, by and by.
So I get the feeling that there's a Kapil Sibal album that's being put together.
No, not just an album. I'm looking for some big movies in which you can put those.
So the songs are ready and written,
Right.
and the movie now
The
has to
music
be
is
found.
also complete.
And the movie has to be found.
That's right.
So there's a message here to Bombay directors that there's some wonderful songs ready, the music is ready, just come up with the film.
Yeah, and there are many people, many of the musicians and music directors who've already met me, and they like them very much.
It sounds as if there's a third career that's about to break on the world. You've been a politician, you've been a lawyer, you seem to be ready to be a
No, this
full-time
I
lyricist.
do for fun and entertainment. Again, some of the songs I gave in this film, I didn't charge anything. I don't do it for money.
When you read your father's poetry, or when you listen to the lyrics that he's written for film songs, do they reveal things about him that you perhaps weren't fully aware of? Or is he too much of a politician to ever let down his guard?
No, as I said, that I think this was always something in the making. I've seen flashes of it growing up, bits and pieces, but he never had the time, or he never found the time, and now he has. But of course, there's a lot of emotion behind the words,
Does he at times...
It offers insight.
Does he at times express himself through poetry, and you, through the poetry, realize this is a deeply felt emotion rather than conversationally?
Well, I mean, I think that, you know, I understand him intuitively in any case, but yes, this is an expression of that which I know.
Now, there's another side of you, Kapil, not just the poet, not just the lawyer, not just the politician. Kapil Sibal is also a cook, and you enjoy cooking.
I love cooking.
Cooking only or eating as well?
Both, both. I love food.
What sort of cooking do you like?
All kinds, all cuisines in the world.
So you dabble in whatever you can?
Yeah, all
From
cuisine.
Chinese to French?
Chinese to French to Italian to Lebanese.
So when you're not in bed, you're in the kitchen?
No. Of late, I've really had no time. But yes, you know, 2-3 years ago, I used to cook a meal.
Is he a good cook? Or are you too polite to say no?
Don't put him in a spot. Don't put him in a spot.
Yeah, you're getting a bit worried that he might be honest. Go on, Akhil. Is Daddy a good cook? Or do you grit your teeth and eat what he's made?
He enjoys the process so much
that you can't say it's bad.
No, it's good. He is good.
What a diplomatic answer. He enjoys the process so much, we can't say we don't.
No, he is good at it. He is good at it, and you know, because he's so enthusiastic and passionate, and he's creative with it. He's creative. He'll give it, you know, some.
Don't go by the book.
A slightly
at all.
So if you see him in the kitchen, there'll be no cookbook. It'll be on instinct.
Yeah, I don't go by the book.
And is he a clean cook, or does he mess up the place when he's finished?
Well, he gets somebody else to do all the chopping and cutting. He's a chef.
He's like a fine French chef. He just puts it all together.
I'm a chef. I'm a chef.
You know, Kapil, as you look back on your amazing career, you've been a top politician, a leading lawyer, and now you're fast becoming a well-known poet. Which of the three is the most satisfying for you?
You know, I never look at life that way. I enjoy 100%
whatever you're doing.
Whatever I do. And I give it 100%.
I think he thinks about tomorrow, never yesterday.
I never think about yesterday. Never in my life have I thought about yesterday.
So literally, when one door closes, you walk through the next,
absolutely.
and that is over.
Absolutely, it's over. When a musician walks into my room, the other day, 2 of them came, and you know, then I forget law. Then I'm involved in that particular.
And I think the other part that's unique, and which is why I said earlier on that he's far more youthful than I am, is that as one grows older, you see it in others, people become set in their ways. They become averse to opportunity and to trying something new. But never him, never him, never him.
Well, you couldn't get a better compliment from your son, Kapil. But I'm going to end by asking you to give the audience a flavor of your poetry. We know Kapil Sibal, the politician. We know Kapil, the lawyer. We've heard tantalizingly about Kapil, the poet. But now share with us the poems that you particularly believe are your favorite.
Okay. First of all, let me start with a poem on politics. That is in the context of cricket. Very interesting. One day, a beloved leader had a disturbing dream. Was called upon to play for the Indian cricket team. Knowing that he could not bat, his bowling underhand, why selectors took a chance he could not understand. All his attributes he felt unsuited to the game. That was indeed the reason none objected to his name. Did not believe in fair play, and if the game looked lost, was prone to tamper with the ball, must win at any cost. Infiltrate the opposite camp to work behind the scenes, reach out for their key players, adopt unsavory means. Express his no confidence, appealed on every ball, did all he could to influence the third umpire's call.
Incredible, you really are quite a poet, and the meter is bouncy.
Such leaders are of a rare breed, we value not their worth, must look out for technologies to help us cite them at birth.
That's a lovely poem. Read another one for us.
A love poem this time.
Will you tell us who you've got in mind?
You'll find out.
Okay.
Gentle snowflakes whisper to me, like wayward minds have lost their way. The eerie stillness of winter nights bear witness to their carefree flights. They sway in silence and adjust with ease, caress contours that no one sees. Merge as they fall, with comfort lie, their journey is a lullaby. I want you by my side, adrift. You are for me sweet nature's gift. Wayward are ways, an antidote, where distance time is kept afloat. This fulsome lap allows me to, in nature's womb, get close to you. And as we sink within our world, like snowflakes lost, yet closely curled.
What a lovely metaphor, like snowflakes lost. We've got time, I think, for one last one.
Okay, so then this is about journalism, politicians, and lawyers. This is not a poem, but it's defining moments. A good judge is one who hears everybody, but listens only to his conscience. A good lawyer is one who rejects the unconscionable, doubts the improbable, respects the probable, projects the reasonable. A good journalist is one who rejects the reasonable, suspects the probable, embraces the improbable, investigates the unconscionable.
And I can see you don't like journalists.
A successful politician is one who makes the unconscionable sound reasonable and the reasonable sound unconscionable.
Kapil Sibal, those are magical moments. My thanks to both of you for joining me today. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.